Let's take you live to Abuja now, where the 2025 Afreximbank annual meetings are currently underway. The high-level event brings together African leaders, policymakers, and industry players to discuss the continent's economic future and intra-African trade. Let's have a listen.
Trust, excellence, commitment, creativity. We will build for Africa's prosperity. We will build for the now and posterity. As we standing together, we prepare to forever be a transforming Africa's trade. Oh, we are Afreximbank. We will build for Africa's prosperity. We will build for the now and posterity. As we standing together, we prepare to forever be a transforming Africa's trade. Oh, we are Afreximbank. You may be seated. Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Afreximbank annual meetings 32nd here in Abuja, where it all began. Now allow me to extend a special welcome to our distinguished dignitaries and guests here at present. Before I read this protocol list, I will say that in my 25 years as a media professional and as an MC, this is the longest list I've ever read. And still, people will say that I didn't mention them. So before that happens, I apologize. I'll try to make adjustments as I go along. But first of all, of course, I have to begin by welcoming and recognizing His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his wife, Her Excellency Mrs. Oluremi Tinubu, the President and First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. You just don't know how happy we are that you're here with us today. His Excellency Lazarus McCarthy Chakwera and First Lady are here, the President of Malawi. As is the President of Gabon, His Excellency Brice Oligui Nguema and First Lady. The Honorable Dr. Philip Isdo Mpango and First Lady, the Vice President of the United Republic of Tanzania, is here with us. And from what they call the sixth realm of Africa, the Caribbean, comes the Honorable Philip E. Davis, the Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Yes. All the way from the Caribbean too is the Prime Minister of Grenada, Honorable Dikon Mitchell. And Your Excellency, we have so many representatives of so many governments from around the world, senior representatives. I'll try to reel them off as quickly as possible. I should say before I begin though, the Most Honorable Terence Drew, Prime Minister of Kitts and Nevis, is with us as well. Representing His Excellency Abdel Fattah el-Sisi is His Excellency Hassan Abdallah, the Governor of the Central Bank of Egypt. Cabinet Secretary Mr. Musalia Mudavadi is representing His Excellency Dr. William Ruto, the President of Kenya. President Benedict Orama and his wife are present here with us, President of Afreximbank. His Excellency Olusegun Obasanjo, former President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, is here with us. His Excellency Haile Mariam Desalegn, the former Prime Minister of Ethiopia, the former President of Senegal is here with us, His Excellency Macky Sall. And our brothers a couple of doors over are represented here by former President of Ghana, His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo. I should mention two very important for me to mention and single out. He's the Minister of Finance and the Economy for the Federal Republic of Nigeria, but he's also, and his team, are also the tireless workers that made really all this possible. So a robust round of applause for His Excellency Wale Edun. Yes. The longest serving Prime Minister in the history of Jamaica is here. The Most Honorable Percival Noel James Patterson. I also spy over to my right there, former Vice Presidents of Nigeria. I can see Dr. Yemi Osinbajo and Dr. Nnamdi Sambo. We have representatives of the President of Chad, of Cote d'Ivoire, as I said, of Kenya. Her Excellency Dr. Carla Barnett, Secretary General of CARICOM, the Caribbean community, is here. And very important for me to mention this one, representing the African Union Commission chairperson is none other than the Deputy Chairperson, Her Excellency Selma Hadidi is right here with us. There are governors from states and provinces too numerous to mention, including Nigeria and other parts of Africa. I even see my own governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, over there, but there are many others. Many others I don't have the time to mention. And governors of central banks are here as well from all across Africa and the Caribbean. There are senior EVPs, executive vice presidents and executive vice presidents of Afreximbank. There are so many captains of industry. Let me single one out. Aliko Dangote is here, for example. And there are many others. There are many others. Many others. The diplomatic corps and head of international organizations, board members, shareholders of Afreximbank, former presidents of Afreximbank, senior executive presidents of Afreximbank, my colleagues at Afreximbank, friends here, AFNET representatives, ladies and gentlemen of the press, anybody watching around the world on the television, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Afreximbank Annual Meetings 2025. Now, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mark Omorowa Oluwasegun Edo. I'm home, and I'm so happy to be home. And on behalf of Afreximbank, it's my pleasure to be your traffic warden for the next few hours. And I'm also not doing this alone. I'm thrilled to be joined on stage by someone who truly embodies the spirit of communication and connection. Joining us all the way from Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire, she speaks fluent, beautiful French and English. Please welcome my fantastic co-host, Miss Marie-Angèle Touré.
Thank you very much, Mark, for your kind words. And as we all know in this room, if there is only one MC in Africa, it is indeed Mark Edo, ladies and gentlemen. I will switch to French now. Excellences, distingués invités, mesdames et messieurs, quel plaisir d'être avec vous aujourd'hui, de passer cette seconde partie de journée avec vous, parce que certains d'entre vous étaient déjà là ce matin, d'autres étaient là durant les 3 précédentes journées. Et j'ai envie de vous dire que pour cette première participation à ces assemblées annuelles, je trouve que c'est vraiment un moment exceptionnel. Nous avons eu, durant ces 3 jours, des intervenants d'une extrême qualité, qui ont partagé avec nous leurs ambitions pour l'Afrique. Nous avons eu des modérateurs d'un niveau extrêmement, je dirais, extraordinaire. Et aujourd'hui, pour ceux qui ont participé à la cérémonie, nous avons eu d'anciens chefs d'État qui nous ont montré qu'ils sont au cœur de l'Afrique et que l'Afrique est à l'intérieur de leur cœur. Ils ont partagé avec nous leurs projets passés, leurs frustrations parfois, mais également leurs ambitions pour l'Afrique d'aujourd'hui, pour l'Afrique de demain. Et je trouve que c'est ça l'énergie d'Afreximbank. Et cette énergie, nous allons la garder, la partager et l'emmener vers le futur du continent africain. Alors merci à vous d'être là, merci pour votre présence, pour votre motivation et poursuivons cette cérémonie avec Mark Edo.
Merci beaucoup. Now, this year, this gathering revolves around a theme that couldn't be more timely or meaningful. Building the future on decades of resilience. It's a testament to the extraordinary journey Afreximbank has led, shaping destinies, empowering businesses, and weaving together the economic fabric of our great continent. Now, under the visionary leadership of Professor Benedict Orama and his remarkable team, Afreximbank has not just imagined a brighter future for Africa, they've rolled up their sleeves and they've made it happen. Trade has flourished, businesses have thrived, and unity has grown stronger, all thanks to their unwavering dedication. As Professor Orama prepares to take his well-earned bow, he's bowing, but he's not out. He's still part of the Afreximbank family. After a decade at the helm, we're reminded of the words of Nelson Mandela. It always seems impossible until it's done. Professor, you've shown us what's possible when passion meets purpose. Professor, today I think we feel that the giants of Pan-Africanism, Nkrumah, Kenyatta, Azikwe, and so many others, they're smiling down. They're proud of the legacy you've built. Professor Orama, you've carried the torch forward, lighting the way for generations to come. They are looking down at you and they are saying, well done, my son. Now, from all of us, thank you, Professor, for your vision, your courage, your heart, the journey that Afreximbank may be. Your journey at Afreximbank as the head of Afreximbank may be ending, but your impact, it'll echo across Africa for years to come. The future is brighter because you dared to lead. Now, before we are going to celebrate your legacy, really celebrate. We know how to celebrate in Nigeria. And we're going to see some amazing things in a moment. But before I do, I'm going to hand over the floor, as I said, to a gentleman who has had a lot of late nights to make today happen. Please welcome the welcome remarks of the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister for the Economy of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Mr. Wale Edun.
Thank you very much, Mark, and a very good afternoon. The protocols. His Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, President, Federal Republic of Nigeria, and our First Lady, Her Excellency, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, CON. Your Excellency, you are a guest of honor today, but we thank you for being the one to approve and to accept that Nigeria has the honor to host this most historic of annual general meetings of Afreximbank. Your Excellencies, the Presidents here present, and your First Ladies, Your Excellencies, the Prime Ministers, and representatives. May I especially recognize former President Chief Olusegun Obasanjo and all the other former presidents and vice presidents here present. Governor, we saw the Governor of Lagos, governors that are here, ministers from all across Africa, you're most welcome. The private sector, let us not forget to always remember the importance amongst us of the business leaders of the private sector. Alhaji Aliko Dangote has been mentioned and others here. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for your presence. You are most welcome. At this point, let me go to President Benedict Orama and Mrs. Chinelu Orama, President and Chair of the Board of Afreximbank, who, as the MC has said, This is his swan song. This is his last AGM as president, as leader of Afreximbank and his board. We congratulate you. We welcome you to this celebration of you and what you have achieved. Members of the board of Afreximbank, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, now comes that most Nigerian of phrases, all protocols duly observed. For me, it is both a privilege and a profound honor to welcome you all to Nigeria, to welcome you to Abuja for the 32nd annual Afreximbank meeting. A very special welcome to our brothers and sisters from all across Africa, and also not just the wider continent, but the diaspora. We welcome all those from the Caribbean who are here today. Thank you for making that long journey. We will shorten the distance between brother and sister as time goes by. Deep appreciation, thank you. Our deep appreciation goes to Afreximbank, led by Professor Orama, for organizing what I'm sure will continue to be a very impactful gathering. We are at a pivotal moment in Africa's journey. The African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement gives us a powerful platform to reimagine our continent's future. And so this is more than just an annual meeting, more than just a gathering. It's a convergence of our shared dreams for a more prosperous, a more integrated, and definitely a more internationally competitive Africa. We gather not just as officials, but as custodians of a regional and a continental promise. Nigeria is honored to host this landmark event, as I said earlier. And to all of you, our guests, feel at home. You are most welcome, and be sure to return often. Our partnership with Afreximbank has deepened over the years, and it's been a journey marked by hope, resilience, and a shared prosperity. May I therefore add that we do not want to wait another 32 years to host this summit in Nigeria again. Afrexim has been instrumental in Nigeria's economic transformation, and in particular, in the last couple of years, under the bold and courageous leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, impactful things have been done, including the opening, in just a few months ago, of the Africa Trade Center in Abuja, a hub for trade finance. Likewise, this very month, the establishment of the African Medical Center of Excellence in Abuja, bringing world-class healthcare to Nigeria, to Africa, and indeed to the world. Let me just say that we also, I must mention, the substantial support to the private sector from Professor Orama and his team. The likes of the Dangote refinery have benefited. The small and medium-scale sector has benefited, and we thank you for that. In all, development financing by Afreximbank for Nigeria has exceeded $50 billion. I know others will tell us about the impact of the leadership of Professor Orama over the last 10 years. But I must just say that we do have, as a result of his innovation, his determination, and his thought leadership, the Pan-African Payment System, the African Free Trade Area Adjustment System, the Transit Guarantee System, and the annual International Trade Fair. These are all key building blocks in making Africa able to trade amongst ourselves, to raise from a paltry 15% the figure of trade which we do with each other. Everything else goes outside. We still face in Africa daunting challenges. However, we are able, if we can trade together, to move our people out of poverty in the millions. The Nigerian government is committed fully to supporting Afreximbank through capitalization, regulation, and steadfast partnership. And we affirm our adherence to meet all our treaty obligations, and we urge all other states to do the same to keep Afreximbank a strong, stable, and impactful institution. Our generation must be remembered as builders of a united, prosperous Africa. The time is now. Let us be a bridge to the future of shared wealth, deeper cooperation, and enduring peace. Together, let us deliver growth. Let us deliver jobs, particularly based on investment by the private sector. On a final note, let me just say that just a couple of days ago, my friend, my brother, colleague, the governor of Central Bank, mentioned that the issue, Harvard had studied the issue of leadership, and they found that successful leaders had two capacities in particular. They were able to strategize. They had strategy, but then they also had execution. But they found that only 8% of leaders could combine these important facilities. Of course, as we have seen over the last 2 years, and even before that, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu qualifies as part of that 8%. But today is about Professor Benedict Orama. And he too, with the legacy of the last 10 years of leadership, as well as 30 years of service to Afreximbank, has proved that he has the strategy, he has the execution, he has the capacity. He is one of the 8% as well. So, Prof, well done. You will always be remembered for your courageous leadership, your excellent stewardship, and your unwavering, total dedication and commitment to Africa's prosperity. Finally, let me just say that I would like to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of us that has been part of this team effort that has allowed us to showcase Nigeria, to showcase Nigerian hospitality. And I thank Her Excellency the First Lady for putting on a wonderful program for the spouses of the visiting heads of state and government with her wives program. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Finally, I say to us all today, let us go into the future with confidence, with determination, and let us find that capacity to strategize well and to execute well. Thank you very much, and enjoy the conference, enjoy Nigeria. Thank you.
Another round of applause, please, for Mr. Wale Edun and his indeed very warm welcome message. We do feel welcomed in Nigeria, as a foreigner, I must say. So, as Mark said earlier, there are so many officials during these annual meetings that unfortunately sometimes we are missing some names. So I would like to acknowledge the presence of representative of the Republic of Congo, Minister of Finance, Christian Yoka, mesdames et messieurs, le ministre. Ladies and gentlemen, now we are about to experience a very, very special moment. History does not sleep. It waits patiently for the right moment to speak again. Some voices carry across time clearer than ever. Today, we reconnect with one of those voices. Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe was not only the first president of Nigeria, he was a symbol of unity, of vision, and of courage. His words still challenge us to rise higher. Il était un symbole d'unité, de clairvoyance et de courage. Ces mots nous appellent encore à viser plus haut, mesdames et messieurs. Ce que vous allez vivre à présent dépasse l'hommage. C'est un dialogue entre générations. C'est un message né dans une autre époque, mais destiné à la nôtre. Mesdames et messieurs, je vous invite maintenant à profiter de ce message. On se retrouve juste après pour continuer ce programme.
The challenge of Nigeria as a free state in 20th century Africa is the need to revive the stature of man in Africa and restore the dignity of man in the world. Nigerians believe passionately in the fundamental human rights. We regard all races of the human family as equal. Under no circumstance shall we accept the idea that the black race is inferior to any other race. To associate with us in this great adventure of restoring the dignity of man in the world. There are many leaders who can give active support and assistance to our nation at its supreme hour of need. When Britain transferred power to us on 1st October 1960, we were no longer an expression of geography, but a reality of history. Let us bind the nation's wound and let us heal the breaches of the past so that in forging our nation, there shall emerge on this continent a hate-free, fear-free, and greed-free people who shall be in the vanguard of a world task force whose assignment is not only to revive the stature of man in Africa, but to restore the dignity of man in the world. I have made up my mind to do all that lies in my power so that our newly won freedom shall endure. All that remains for us to do now is for our leaders and their followers to demonstrate that spiritual resilience which had enabled us to survive the onslaught of the past. With faith in the eventual success of our adventure in the Community of Nations, we can look forward to the morrow with hope and charity for our fellow man, knowing that the task has been well done and the prospects of a future are bright.
Et à présent, après ce saut dans le passé, revenons dans l'actualité. Il est des voix qui ne se contentent pas de parler, elles habitent l'espace, elles résonnent, elles élèvent. Et aujourd'hui, nous avons le privilège d'en accueillir une. Une voix enracinée dans la tradition, mais tournée vers l'avenir. À travers ces mots, il nous invite à écouter autrement, à sentir, à nous souvenir, mais surtout à nous éveiller. Nana Asase is more than a poet. He is a force, he is a presence, a storyteller who bridges tradition and vision. So please welcome, ladies and gentlemen, with all your heart, the extraordinary voice of our time, Nana Asese.
time. World and the ways of my people. And I have learned that when you go back and you greet before entering a house, it is in order. I salute you, Your Excellency. For indeed it is on the ends of old ropes that new ones are woven. That is how children like me find our voices. And so I call on Africans gone before who laid the foundations on which we do not only clap our hands but beat our chest. My people, they say that when a man beats his chest it's because he has no drum. We beat our chest because it's as good as drum as any animal's skin could ever be. And we are proud. But unfortunately, our ancestors have been invoked too many times, they hardly have time to be dead. It is time to crown our living ancestors. My people, so I am the writer king who sips communion wine from the calabash. I came to pour libation not with drink, but to you, and you, and you, living Africans who keep the world going round. It is in order then that I send a message to the future, to Africans yet to enter the thoughts of time and say, our fathers are planting good steps. When you come, leave the earth better than you met it. When you come, leave our Commonwealth better than it is, for our Commonwealth is not stashed in votes. These are the amazing gifts the Creator left us in our minds. Africa, past, present, and future, all in one, in the space of a child called before his elders. How do I even speak to a matter older than me in years? Are we all not travelers? My sister Tupi from Liberia says, we are all travelers on one journey with one destination. We are children from so many wombs but with one umbilical. And we are a people beaten, broken, hammered too many times. Yet, because the world could not count our steps, they chose to call it dance. Welcome to Africa, this place where the Creator descends to enjoy the cool of the evening. Welcome to this place where he cooks his food and sends to the rest of the world. My people, the struggles of man begin at birth. We learn to take our first steps. We stumble, we fall, we pick ourselves up, and we keep going. They say my words are heavy, but it's because as a people, our dreams are heavier. We dream of finding leadership that keeps us in incubators you call fantastic ideas so that Africa will rise again. I came with all pride to say that we finally are making the world go round and keeping our houses in order. I came to say that we have learned to celebrate our heroes while they are here with us. When I say Ago, my people say Amen. Ago. Ago. Amen. Ago. Amen. And so when we have gathered to compare smokes, yours had better not be more colorful than that of the master weaver. You see, Afreximbank belongs to all of us. That cock that crows to wake up the whole neighborhood. That child nobody would have wanted to have because he would be difficult to raise. But you see, resting on the shoulders of the mind is the burden of a great vision. After 31 and 2 years, today, this is a child everybody is proud of. We beat our chest about him, we clap about him. My people, you see, uneasy lies the head that wears the crown. I dare say uneasy lies the behind that sits on the seat. And so they say you should put your money where your mouth is. Please put your money where your neck is, for your neck holds your head and your head houses your mouth. But when it is gone, it goes to a place deeper than you can ever see. Ago. 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 Amen. I am no statistician. I am simply a consumer of history and all the amazing things called time. I sit on the junctions and see how leaders come and go and leave their footprints. My people, we will not wait, for it is too late before we start to call our heroes in dirges and in song. Your Excellencies, each one of you has excelled in their field. That is how Africa holds this front line. I see presidents, former presidents. It simply says we keep handing the baton to the front lines and we keep weaving ropes on the ends of old ones, and Africa is sure to work. For a child who will live long needs no charm. Ago. Ago. Amen. Ago. Amen. Please, in our fashion, when someone has wronged us, we name and shame. My people, it is then in order that when a matter is significant, we abandon our so-called serious shadows and sit in council. We call him guilty, lay his charges, and celebrate him for doing something great. One of us is guilty of greatness. Your Excellency, I will dare to ask, pardon me as a child, if you will give him happy to make our lives easier. Otherwise, we will have to find his trail, find where he sits. A man can only be as true as his mother tongue. All of Africa, all of the world came to say, Dalu, Dike, Dalu, Odogu, Dalu, Rene. You have done what they said cannot be done. You have made what they said is impossible, possible. So Africa can sit at the table of the world, and our reserves are not just in ore, my people. We are the brains that keep the world going. We are the ones that keep our estate in order. I would not like to talk about PAPs or interventions or how businesses are growing in Africa. I came to talk about dreams. Dreams are the preserve of the chosen. So Africa, good night. It's still afternoon. This life is simply that dream we woke up from nothingness in eternity to sleep into reality. So sleep. Dreams are the preserve of the chosen. While all men sleep, the chosen dream. Yet our leaders choose to wake up and lend feet to their dreams. My people, we should all go back to bed. Sir, when it is time for you to leave, I have heard of people saying these shoes are too big to fill. Please take your shoes with you, for indeed every traveler deserves his shoes. All of you, welcome to this place where when we receive visitors, we learn to offer you water for quite a few reasons. Wash your hands of all the sins you might have committed, sir, and wash your feet of all the traveler's dust. Wash your brow of the traveler's heat, and then quench your thirst. Not your thirst for water, but your thirst for knowledge. Every traveler is in search of knowledge, and I know you keep wondering how Africa will look in the next 30, how Afrexim will look in the next 30. Ago. 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 My people say a good matter is short. This one has yet to start from the beginning. My people, join me and let us pay homage to whom homage is due. And so, we pay homage to Africa. We pay homage to Afrexim. We pay homage to the great Professor Benedict Orama. Sir, please, I do not reduce your stature when I call you Orama. I do not reduce your stature when I call you Okechukwu. Indeed, you are God's portion that was given to us. That is why we are flourishing. Please, when I ask you to stand, it is out of respect. Earth will receive you gently, sir. When you begin to take your steps, you are writing history we will not forget. When you get to the lectern to speak, we will all keep quiet. And when you are done, sir, we will rise and we will clap for you. This is a promise I can guarantee. No? Your Excellency, with all respect, please, will you rise? Your Excellency, with all respect, will you walk to us? Your Excellency, with all respect, the world is here to listen. Ago, Ago, Ago. Now the accused of greatness defends himself. I will be back.
Thank you very much, Nana.
Mark has established the protocol, a very long one for that matter, so I will not repeat myself, except that I must not fail to recognize and thank our President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and his spouse, Senator Oluremi Tinubu. I must thank you for the respect to be here today. I must also recognize all the presidents, prime ministers, vice presidents, their representatives who are here with us, as well as the former presidents and prime ministers who have also joined us. I know you took the time to be here because of the work we did with us who are here, especially the coordinating minister of the economy of Nigeria, dear friend Wale, who worked day and night to make this possible. Finally, I must recognize business people who made whatever progress we've achieved possible. And of course, my dear wife, Chinelo, and my daughters who are here with me and with whom I've traveled this journey in good and tough times, and there were real tough times. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, since this is a report card for 10 years of service, I will crave your indulgence to take a few more minutes than usual. It is an immense pleasure to deliver this important speech in this hotel where my Afreximbank journey began. In October 1993, I stepped into the Transcorp Congress Hall, just over there, and watched with enthusiasm as pioneer shareholders took turns to sign the Afreximbank Charter. Among the important decisions made by shareholders on that day was the appointment of my boss then as the pioneer president, Mr. Christopher Dodu, who is here, and I thank him for being here. Afreximbank shareholders will return to Abuja in 2005 to settle a dispute and voted to appoint Mr. Jean-Louis Ekra as the second president of the bank. I thank him for also being here with us. When shareholders vote later this week to appoint a new president, Abuja will make history at that city where 3 of the 4 presidents of the bank will have been appointed. Congratulations, Mr. President. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is on that note that I would like to thank His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the government and the people of Nigeria for hosting the 32nd annual meetings of Afreximbank. For me personally, today's event is epoch-making, as it marks the last time I will be addressing you at the annual meetings of the bank as its president. In June 2015 in Lusaka, Zambia, I had the distinct honor of receiving the unanimous vote of shareholders to become the bank's 3rd president. In my acceptance speech, which I made emotionally because I knew the shareholders took a risk on me, given that I just recovered from a very serious illness. I made a solemn promise to shareholders to, and I quote, to deliver a solid bank that will be a leader among its peers in all measures of financial performance.
to quickly grow the capital of the bank in absolute terms, improve capitalization through innovative capital management initiatives, ensure first-class risk management, and achieve adequate returns to shareholders. I said then that we will build risk buffers that will adequately protect the bank as it intervenes in difficult markets. In terms of development focus, I said, and I quote, that we'll give priority to interventions that will have the broadest development impact. Promotion of intra-African trade will therefore be a priority as it will improve Africa's dynamic comparative advantage in the export of light manufactures. I emphasize that we will give priority to the financing and promotion of high-value exports that have the capability of stabilizing export revenues and creating jobs. That we will aim to support the creation of commercially viable medical centers of excellence so that never again will hundreds of thousands of Africans die simply because they are not able to obtain visas to travel abroad for healthcare. As to my personal commitment, I stressed on that occasion that there will be no sacrifice too great for me to make for a bank that saved my life. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you most pleased and fulfilled that I kept my promises. I gave the job the best of my energy, intellect, courage, and determination. As a result, between 2020, the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, and May 2025, and with the strong support of our shareholders, Afreximbank invested approximately $120 billion in Africa and the Caribbean, and $150 billion in the 10 years I was president. These must rank among the highest by any standards. And the fact that we invested $150 billion and have a capital of $43 billion tells you that Africans pay their debt. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have collectively over the past decade built a solid financial institution that is good for global Africa. Total assets and guarantees grew more than 8-fold between September 2015 and April 2025 to reach $43.5 billion. Total revenues also rose 7-fold, reaching $3.24 billion from $408 million in 2015. Net income amounted to about $1 billion last year, about 700% increase from the level of $125 million in 2015. Internal capital generation and very strong support from shareholders through significant additional equity investments saw shareholders' funds rise from about $1 billion in September 2015 to $7.5 billion in April 2025. With callable capital reaching $4.5 billion from $450 million in September 2015. Liquidity remained very strong, with sources of funding much more diversified in 2024 than in 2015, due to the activities of the African Resource Mobilization Unit, which we created in 2016, and which saw the share of African sources of funding rise from just about 11% in 2015 to almost 37% in May 2025. At group level, the Fund for Export Development in Africa and the Afreximbank, our insurance management subsidiary, started making significant contributions to profit and growing in scope and depth. Beyond profits, these subsidiaries have also started fulfilling their mandate with further investing equity in various sectors across 13 countries, including technology, creative industry, industrial infrastructure, financial institutions, energy, and so on. Despite the challenging operating environment, the bank group was able to continue with the tradition of returning value to shareholders through annual dividends distribution. Aggregate dividends payments from 2015 to 2024 reached $1.35 billion. I must, at this juncture, thank shareholders once again for a significant reinvestment of these dividends, with 50 to 70% of the dividends reinvested annually throughout that period. A strong vote of confidence in your bank and management. Today, Afreximbank has become a trusted institution for mitigating the adverse impact of economic shocks and the primary source of vital medium to long-term financing for the African private sector and critical sectors of the African economy. It is important to note that this trajectory of growth and relevance did not start with me, but goes back to my predecessors who grew the bank multiple folds from where they took it. That is why, as I look ahead, I see the bank at no less than $250 billion in total assets and guarantees in 10 years, when my successor will be stepping down. I have no doubt that we would see that even better, given the strength, depth, and scope of the bank group today. And we must support and work towards the attainment of this vision, because it is by our owning and controlling a bank of that size that Africa can hope to escape from the shame of poverty and underdevelopment. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the strategy when I took office was to help the continent to navigate transitory economic shocks while driving development through the promotion, facilitation, and financing of intra-African trade and investment, and pursuing export-led industrialization. For instance, during the commodity price shock of 2015 and 2016, Afreximbank disbursed about $10 billion, which supported many African economies, including Nigeria, Egypt, and Ghana, to meet accumulated trade debt payment obligations, while reducing the impact of the crisis on their foreign exchange markets. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the challenge presented in multiple forms, ranging from an increased backlog of trade debt payments that fell due, lack of access to the COVID-19 containment materials, and lack of funding for fertilizers and food imports. With no help in sight from traditional sources, African Union sought the support of Afreximbank. We worked with Mr. Striber Silva, the African CDC, and UNECA to set up the African Medical Supplies Platform, a digital platform that we use to achieve pooled procurement of personal protective equipment, test kits, and therapeutics on behalf of African and Caribbean states. We supported the central and commercial banks of many African states to continue trade debt payments and to open letters of credit for critical imports. During the period, the bank disbursed about $8 billion in support of Africa. And when the COVID-19 vaccines arrived and there was no financing available, Afreximbank came to the rescue and provided $2 billion facility, which made it possible for Africa and the CARICOM economies to achieve a pooled procurement of 400 million doses of Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccines. The first ever pooled procurement of such a magnitude ever. And as the COVID-19 pandemic faded, the Ukraine crisis emerged in early 2022. Africa was again finding it hard to access grains, fertilizers, and petroleum products. Afreximbank stepped in and disbursed an amount of $50 billion between 2022 and 2023 to support African economies, to diversify sourcing and develop internal capacities, including helping to fast-track petroleum refineries and fertilizer production projects to reduce dependence on Black Sea supplies. And with the debt crisis, many African economies lost international payment services and credit lines. In response, we expanded our payment services and letter of credit offerings. Since the launch of our foreign currency payment service we call AfPay in 2020, a total of $68 billion in trade payments have been processed for banks and corporates in 61 African and Caribbean countries. Similarly, a total of $33 billion in LC issuances and confirmations were facilitated for corporates and banks in over 30 countries. And just last week, Afreximbank became a direct participant in the cross-border interbank payment system, making it possible for the bank to support renminbi payments, which is expected to boost Africa's exports under the duty-free concessions granted to Africa by China. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, despite these short-term crisis interventions, we remain focused on our long-term objective of making Africa resilient and prosperous. I feel fulfilled that we have been able to help deliver on the aspirations set out in the 1963 resolution of the founders of the Organization of African Unity, where they said that they will set up a continental free trade area, set up transit facilities, and also set up African trade fairs. They also said they will set up what they then called African Payment Union. Until we joined forces, these laudable goals remained on the shelf for 60 years. Since the 1960s, when most African countries gained independence, they have followed the so-called international best practice, as defined by others in managing their economies. Today, that international best practice has kept our people and economies where we were 60 years ago. We have nothing to show for it. We remain fragmented, atomistic economies that do not trade with one another as we were 60 years ago. We remain raw commodity exporters, with these commodities largely being traded by others, not us, as we were 60 years ago. We remain the poorest economies on earth, worse than we were 60 years ago. Our approach at Afreximbank has been to find an alternative best practice. And we call that the African best practice. And this is because we realized that there was no common denominator practice that propelled the high-performing economies of the world. Each great nation shaped its own destiny. And for us, the African best practice means that an institution like ours must understand the power of capital, owned and controlled by Africans, in unlocking Africa's development, and use it boldly and with courage and expertise to support African people and put Africa first. It must be innovative and daring and not be held down by a debilitating paralysis of the will. And I dare say that it is because of the adoption of African best practice that we've been able to accomplish some of the modest accomplishments to our credit. That was why, when others could not, we were able to directly and indirectly support the Dignitary refinery and petrochemical industry in an amount of about $4 billion, which then made it possible for it to be completed quickly. That complex, now operational, is helping to cut petroleum imports into Nigeria by between $10 to $12 billion annually. It's also increasing value-added exports out of Nigeria. For the first time, Nigeria started exporting refined petroleum products. It never happened before. And that is why when Tanzania decided to solve its energy problem and wanted to develop the refugee dam called the Nyerere Dam today, and could not find support because no bank was willing to support them, Afreximbank worked with them and the Egyptian government to arrange a $2.9 billion credit facility from entirely within Africa to support Arab contractors and SWD Electric, both of Egypt, to execute that project that will provide 2.1 gigawatts of electricity to Tanzania. I thank the Vice President here for support and for the belief in us. It wasn't easy, but happy it was done. That was why when Ghana was in dire need of support to enable it to access IMF facility and restructure its debt, Afreximbank stepped in with $750 million facility, and today, Ghana is not a basket case many people thought it would be, it's actually on recovery path. And that is why your bank is razor focused on promoting intra-African trade and African Continental Free Trade Agreement implementation. Afreximbank and AFCFTA Secretariat, under the able leadership of His Excellency Wankele Mene, fully understand that a trade agreement without a solid financial backing will soon run out of steam. Accordingly, we have worked very, very closely together to ensure the full implementation of the AFCFTA. Permit me to outline a few of what we have been doing. One of the greatest barriers to intra-African trade has been the lack of efficient cross-border payment systems, which have created leakages of around $5 billion annually. The Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, championed by Afreximbank, in partnership with the AFCFTA Secretariat and African Union Commission, is integrating the 42 payment systems that exist in Africa, enabling real-time payments in local currencies. PAPS eliminates the need for currency conversion through external intermediaries, saving billions of transaction costs for Africa. The system is supported by a $3 billion clearing and settlement fund from Afreximbank. PAPS has onboarded about 160 commercial banks and operates today in 16 countries, with many more underway and being integrated. PAPS is now beginning to gradually deliver on its fundamental purpose of serving as the continental payment rail that will foster innovation and overall continental payment efficiency. In this regard, an African currency marketplace was also launched under PAPS and is now fully operational. This marketplace allows for trading of African currencies, creating a window for the repatriation of trapped funds in different African countries. And today, we launched the PAPS credit and debit card in partnership with Mercury and Discover. Holders of this card, and I must thank the Excellencies who received the card, you can use this card and pay for any expenses in your national currency in the 16 African countries where PAPS is enabled today. With PAPS, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have opened many possibilities. For instance, we can bring more liquidity to our capital markets as it will enable an Egyptian to buy stocks on the Nigerian Stock Exchange using Egyptian pounds. It will enable a Kenyan entity to issue bonds listed on the Nairobi Stock Exchange, and the Ghanaian can invest in it using Ghana cedis. Gradually, we will achieve convergence in our capital and financial markets and pave the way for a single currency one day in the future. We thank the 16 countries that have connected to PAPS and are driving its phenomenal month-on-month growth, and urge others who are yet to do so to expedite the process. And just a few weeks ago, CARICOM central banks endorsed PAPS for use in the implementation of the CARICOM payment system. We hope that a successful implementation of the mandate will also pave the way for integration of CARICOM and African payment systems, bringing our people closer together after so many years. Last year, we celebrated a significant milestone with the formal launch of the AFCFTA Adjustment Funds operations in Kigali, Rwanda. This landmark initiative underscores Afreximbank's commitment to ensuring the equitable distribution of benefits from the AFCFTA while addressing the challenges of transition to a tariff-free trade. The fund is valued at $10 billion and is backed by Afreximbank with a $1 billion commitment. Mindful that it's access to finance that can power intra-African trade, we have over the past 10 years expanded financing of intra-African trade, raising the intra-African trade financial of the bank's total loans to 32% from 3% 10 years ago. We have made sure that almost all African countries have access to trade and payment services lines to be able to conduct intra-African trade. And we are glad that thanks to this effort and to PAPS, we are beginning to see letters of credit being issued in African currencies. Afreximbank has also led the effort in addressing the challenges arising from the colonial legacy of fragmentation of the continent into 55 atomistic countries, bounded by 110 borders, within which there are 16 land-linked countries. For years, it took days and cost significant sums of money for goods to cross multiple borders, as shippers must post transit bonds and guarantees at each border crossing. Today, we are putting this absurdity behind us. Working with the AFCFTA Secretariat and the Commercial Secretariat, as well as the African Union Commission, we have launched the Africa Collaborative Transit Guarantee Scheme that makes it possible for a single transit bond issued by Afreximbank, either directly or through a partnership, to facilitate the movement of goods from Cape to Cairo without stopping at the over 9 borders such a good must cross. Currently fully operational in the commercial region, where bonds approaching $1 billion have been issued, we expect to expand the scheme to other parts of Africa, and thank the Commercial Secretariat for their partnership. We also thank ZEPRI, the Commercial Reinsurance Institution, for their partnership in establishing the Trans-Africa Border Alliance, a joint venture that is accelerating our intervention in this space. Your Excellencies, colonialism also foisted on us the legacy of 55 countries with 55 standards in almost everything. There's little hope of conducting efficient intra-African trade under such conditions. According to Afreximbank, in collaboration with Africa Regional Standards Organization, launched an initiative to rapidly harmonize standards across the continent. Using grant funding provided by Afreximbank and mobilized by the bank from its partners, the ASO has been able to harmonize a total of 486 standards in automotives, textiles, leather, pharmaceuticals and medical equipment, as well as in gastronomy and food services. And work is ongoing to harmonize 402 additional standards. We're also actively developing testing and certification infrastructure across Africa to ensure that all African countries have the capacity to test and certify tradable products. Because one thing is to harmonize standards, another is to be able to implement it. Our pilot African Quality Assurance Center is already operational in Ogun State, Nigeria, and others are in progress in Benin Republic and Chad, while discussions have advanced in Kenya and Zimbabwe. We are gradually getting to that day when all product testings will happen on the continent and no longer abroad. While we recognize the importance of the foregoing interventions, we remain mindful that perhaps the greatest obstacle to boosting intra-African trade and AFCFTA implementation is because of severe, limited access to trade and investment information. That is why South Africa imports leather further prepared after tanning from India at a price which is double the price at which Ethiopia exports the input to the world. That is why Kenya imports raw hides from New Zealand, while Burundi next door exports the same to the world at a much lower price. To begin to correct these absurdities, Afreximbank launched the biennial Intra-African Trade Fair in collaboration with African Union Commission and the AFCFTA Secretariat. Since 2018, when it was launched in Cairo, 2 more editions have been held in Durban in 2021 and Cairo in 2023. The 4th edition is scheduled to hold in Algiers, Algeria, during September 4 to 10 this year, and we are all invited. Since inception, the trade fair has evolved to become the AFCFTA marketplace, having attracted an aggregate of over 70,000 visitors, 4,500 exhibitors, and $100 billion in deals. We invite everyone to join us and take advantage of this opportunity in a few weeks' time. We've also attacked the trade information gap using digital artificial intelligence-enabled technologies. Our African Trade Gateway is a digital ecosystem that encompasses a suite of digital products that facilitate trade and investments. While these are offered directly and through our partner banks, they represent a key offering in Afreximbank Africa Trade Centers being developed by the bank directly and through franchising across Africa. The Africa Trade Center Abuja is located just a few minutes from here, and you are invited to go and visit it. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the area of political and business leaders who have joined us from the Caribbean speak volumes regarding the progress we have made with our outreach to our friends, brothers, and sisters in the CARICOM. Over the past 4 years, we have significantly advanced commercial and cultural linkages within global Africa. Our successful outreach within Caribbean has led to 12 CARICOM states becoming partner members of the bank, with the 13th scheduled to join next week. The establishment of the Afreximbank Caribbean office in Bridgetown, Barbados, and the subsequent groundbreaking for the construction of the bank's Africa Trade Center in the region have all taken place in this short period. Other notable achievements include the establishment of the Africa-Caribbean Business Council and the launch of the Afro-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum in 2022. In 2023, with this year's edition scheduled to take place in St. George's, Grenada, from July 28 to 29, 2025. You're also all invited to join us there. On the business front, our bank has also approved and disbursed millions of US dollars and billions of US dollars, and also disbursed millions of them to the Bahamas, Barbados, Grenada, Guyana, St. Lucia. And in Suriname, our Afreximbank is coordinator and a mandated lead arranger of a syndicated $1.6 billion facility to the state oil company Statsoli for their acquisition of a significant participation in the major oil discovery made there by Total SA. In Guyana, the bank is working with the authorities to implement a $1 billion local content support facility to boost the domestic impact of the significant oil discoveries in that country. Afreximbank is also working with the Caribbean Development Fund, the first CARICOM shareholders of the bank, to introduce a resilience and sustainability facility for the CARICOM. I must at this juncture recognize and thank the strong contingent of political and business leaders attending this event from the CARICOM. I thank you, the Prime Ministers and all the business leaders, the President of the Caribbean Development Bank and the Caribbean Development Fund, all of you who are here, thank you very much. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, industrialization remains a cornerstone of African economic transformation. Indeed, a strong industrial base is vital to the realization of the goals of the AFCFTA. In that regard, your bank continues to prioritize and invest heavily in creating industrial infrastructure across Africa. The bank had a RISE integrated industrial platform jointly owned by the bank, AFC, and Equitain, an equity fund, have invested in the development of special industrial zones in Benin, Chad, Cote d'Ivoire, Gabon, Nigeria, Rwanda, Tanzania, Togo, and it's at various stages of developing others in Angola, DRC, Kenya, Malawi, and Zimbabwe. The goal is to create 100,000 hectares of industrial estates across Africa. The investments by the bank since 2011 aggregate to about $2 billion and are rapidly transforming the economic landscape of the beneficiary countries, boosting SME growth and job creation, as well as trade in value-added products. In Nigeria, the 2,000 hectare special agro-industrial zone being developed and to be opened later in the year, hopefully by His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, would host an agro-allied industries as well as other light and heavy industries, pharmaceuticals, renewables, and logistics facilities. In July this year, we will break ground for the development of a large integrated textile facility that is expected to employ about 250,000 workers. This will be one of the very large textile facilities being developed under a $5 billion partnership entered into by Arise, Afreximbank, and the Swiss textile equipment giant Rita, and supported by the Swiss government. The facility, which is a larger version of a similar facility in Benin Republic, will produce 350,000 tons of garments per year and save Nigeria about $4.7 billion in imports while reviving the entire Nigerian cotton industry. A similar project is also being finalized with the Kenyan government, and I thank the Prime Minister who is here for all the support and the work we've done on this already. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, for far too long we have placed our health in the hands of others. We've waited and hoped for others to find cures for diseases that uniquely afflict us. Your bank, in partnership with King's College London, is taking concrete steps to reverse this situation. About 3 weeks ago, not too far from here, the bank opened the first African Medical Center of Excellence aimed at providing tertiary-level medical care covering oncology, hematology, and cardiovascular diseases, while also providing general medical and trauma services. Investments so far made amount to $300 billion. There is an auxiliary project of $150 million that is still ongoing, bringing total investment to $450 million. The facility will also be a major center for research, especially on diseases of interest to people of African descent. To help fund the research, Afreximbank Board in March approved the creation of Africa Life Sciences Foundation and Endowment Fund. With Afreximbank's grant funding of $75 million, this fund aims to mobilize an additional $525 million to support research, as well as make it possible for the less privileged to access the services of that hospital. Your Excellencies, it is important to note here that Afreximbank also runs impactful initiative in support of the creative industries through a funding commitment of $2 billion. Afreximbank also continues to innovate ways to extend its financing support and development footprints across the continent. In 2023, as the bank turned 30, its shareholders mandated the board and management to establish and manage on their behalf a concessional finance window to complement the offerings of the bank. They also made an initial donation of $200 million towards setting up that entity. I'm pleased to inform you that we are about to formally launch that window and that its first CEO will soon come on board. In view of the enormity of the challenges arising from severe cuts of development assistance, we plan to raise the size of the trust fund to $5 billion from $1 billion with shareholders' approval, which we hope we can get tomorrow. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, together we have built a resilient and impactful institution. The progress we have collectively made was made possible by your unwavering support, which ensured that the bank remained well capitalized to meet the growing demand for trade and development finance as flows from traditional sources continue to dwindle. I would like to urge all of us, particularly as leaders, to remain resolute in their support for and protection of their bank, especially at the most defining moment in its history. The support and protection you give to your bank would enable it to continue to do some of the heavy liftings that others cannot do. Not because they hate us, but because we are not always their priority. Always remember, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, that it was visionary and committed Africans who established and built Afreximbank and other African multilaterals. There would have been no Afreximbank had Dr. Babakar Ndiaye, then President of African Development Bank, not surmounted all odds to lead the establishment of the bank. None of the progress I recounted would have happened had Mr. Christopher Dodu not laid a solid foundation for the bank as its pioneer president. And these accomplishments would have been impossible had Mr. Jean-Louis Ekra not focused on building the bank and establishing its global presence, even in the midst of a tumultuous shareholder dispute. I was given a path well paved by those great men, African heroes. And tomorrow, the shareholders will vote to appoint my successor. I was highly impressed by the rigor with which the board of directors selected the candidate they are recommending to shareholders. And I urge all shareholders to support the new president when elected and give even bigger support than I was giving, because the challenges are going to be even bigger. I say this because the past few years, until recently, we were being prevented from coming to the table. But now that we've come to the table, the fight is to kick us out of the table, kill us. So it's a stronger battle. I would also like to reiterate that the progress we have made as a bank wouldn't have been possible without the unflinching support that shareholders provided during the last decade. The equity injections enabled us to deliver on our core mandate and helped us to confront short-term economic shocks. Our utmost gratitude to our gracious host and his spouse, the First Lady, for the work as a bank wouldn't have been possible without the unflinching support that shareholders provided during the last decade. The equity injections enabled us to deliver on our core mandate and helped us to confront short-term economic shocks. Our utmost gratitude to our gracious host and his spouse, the First Lady, for the wonderful gathering, all the arrangements they've made, the hospitality we've received since we arrived here. We must also thank his government and the people of Nigeria for helping them to deliver on this. I would also like to extend our sincere gratitude to the government of the Arab Republic of Egypt as the host of the bank's headquarters, as well as to His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi for their very unflinching support, always being the first to pay for equity whenever we call. And whenever we needed support, they're always there. And we thank you very much. As I begin to wind down my tenure, I must extend special thanks to shareholders for their confidence in me. Sincere thanks are also due to African governments who have remained steadfast supporters of their institution, to our clients, corporate, central and commercial banks, SMEs, creative industry entrepreneurs and policy institutions, including the African Union Commission, the AFCFTA Secretariat, the UN Economic Commission for Africa, the African Development Bank, World Trade Organization, the International Trade Center, members of the Alliance of African Multilateral Financial Institutions, and many others. Your collaboration with and support to me and the bank have been nothing less than stellar, and thank you very much. Special thanks to our funding partners who have remained steadfast with the bank over the years. And these include all the export credit agencies, development finance institutions, as well as international commercial banks, as well as local commercial banks with whom we have worked very, very closely and ensured that your bank remained solidly liquid all through the past 10 years. My deep appreciation to our board of directors of Afreximbank, who have been the pillars on which the decade-long progress has been built. I thank them. As I begin to wind down my tenure, I must extend special thanks to shareholders for their confidence in me. Sincere thanks are also due to African governments who have remained steadfast supporters of their institution, to our clients, corporate, central and commercial banks, SMEs, creative industry entrepreneurs and policy institutions, including the African Union Commission, the AFCFTA Secretariat, the UN Economic Commission for Africa, the African Development Bank, World Trade Organization, the International Trade Center, members of the Alliance of African Multilateral Financial Institutions, and many others. Your collaboration with and support to me and the bank have been nothing less than stellar, and thank you very much. Special thanks to our funding partners who have remained steadfast with the bank over the years. And these include all the export credit agencies, development finance institutions, as well as international commercial banks, as well as local commercial banks with whom we have worked very, very closely and ensured that your bank remained solidly liquid all through the past 10 years. My deep appreciation to our board of directors of Afreximbank, who have been the pillars on which the decade-long progress has been built. I thank them for working this long and fruitful journey with us, always allowing us to make mistakes, always giving us support and showing us the way when we do make the mistake so that we can course correct. I thank you. I also thank all my colleagues at Afreximbank for their unfettered commitment and support, which enabled us to deliver on our shared commitment to the continent. When I took office, I told you we are all joint mandated lead arrangers. So as joint mandated lead arrangers, we have made significant personal sacrifices for the bank and our continent. I thank you and your families for all the sacrifices and support you've given to me, to the bank, and to the continent. Again, I urge you to remain resolute in your commitment. You must remain courageous and determined. Africa must remain your passion and priority. We must not rest until the dignity of all Africans is restored. It is time to thank my friends who have over the years shown immense understanding as work demands strained our relationships. I thank all of them for always being understanding and being there always when I needed their support, notwithstanding that after getting that support, I'll disappear because of work. Thank you. My family bore the full brunt of the demands of the responsibilities I took on as president. My brothers and sisters, as well as my in-laws, deserve many thanks for their support, understanding, and guidance. I'm proud that my 3 daughters, or 2 of them, are here, but the 3 of them accommodated my absences with grace. My wife, my rock of Gibraltar, was the 3. My wife, my rock of Gibraltar, was the 3 that made the forest in the past 10 years. I'm pleased I can now say to all of them, my children and my wife, that they can now have their father and husband back. I thank you for your kind attention.
President Orama, what more can I say? Now, as I said before, this was the longest protocol list in the history of my career. And there are so many people that came from very, very far away across oceans to honor you, or they sent representatives if they couldn't. So I'm going to read a few out here, representatives of their respective presidents. We have Dr. Musalia Mudavadi, who's the Kenyan Prime Cabinet Secretary representing President William Ruto. We have representing President Paul Kagame of Rwanda, His Excellency Mago Yusuf Murangwa, who's the Minister of Finance and Economic Planning in Rwanda. We have the Deputy Minister Paul Tasong, Deputy Minister of Economy and Economic Planning, representing his president, the President of Cameroon. Mrs. Milagrosa Obono, is representing the President of Equatorial Guinea. She's the Minister of State Assets and Public Investment. And representing his president from Chad is Tahir Hamid Ngulin, Senior Minister of Finance. We have also with us, I see my brother, His Excellency Abubakar Bukola Saraki, the former Senate President and 2 times Governor of Kwara State, is right there. And now I just want to, that sort of rounds it up, but I wanted to sort of save the best for last, because I have also been very much kind of peripheral to watching your journey, but also the journey of the African Continental Free Trade Area. And I can tell you, around about 2015, not everybody believed it. What's that saying they have? Success has many fathers and failure is an orphan. Well, back in the day, when it was still called CFTA, didn't even have an A on it, there was one particular leader that if you look north, you will see his country, Your Excellency President Tinubu, right above Nigeria. This man saw this thing. He grabbed his fellow presidents. He said, listen, this is the future. And he rallied probably more tirelessly, more than any other head of state. I would say that, yes, more than any other head of state. So I want to give and recognize, I want to ask him to stand, and I want you to recognize the champion of the AFCFTA, former president of Niger, Mamadou Issoufou. President Orama, you talked about the successes that Afreximbank has had, so numerous to mention, the ground-shaking, earth-shattering impact of Afreximbank, not just during your tenure, but the fact that Afreximbank singles itself out by not just starting again when there's another president. It builds on the success of past presidents. I see your former 2 past presidents right here in front of me. So many things, so many initiatives. Every day you come out with something. Today is no different. I'm just going going to show you three things. First is the concessional finance window. It's a video. The second is the Africa Life Science Foundation. I know, Excellency President Tinubu, there was a poet on the stage in the first day, not the one you saw, but on the first day, and he said something which caught my ear. He said, why should the Nigerian naira have to go and ask permission from the US dollar in order to speak to his brother, the Kenyan shilling? I was like, the strong words. I was like, oh, I felt it. I was feeling it. Yeah, I was like, yes, why? And that's what PAPS does, PAPS. And we're going to also we launched the PAPS card. I want to show you a video of those three special initiatives of Afreximbank, Your Excellency. Roll the video, please.
When payments from Africa are processed through international card schemes, they travel halfway around the world, adding cost, exposing sensitive data, and undermining Africa's sovereignty over its own payments. But Africa has a solution to safeguard its financial sovereignty and stability. Introducing PAPS Card, the Pan-African Card Scheme, your passport to payments. Developed and operated by PAPS, supported by Afreximbank, the African Union, and the AFCFTA, in collaboration with Mercury Payment Services. PAPS Card keeps payments within Africa's borders, reduces foreign exchange outflows, strengthens local banks and nations, and lowers the cost of trade. PAPS Card delivers a secure, best-in-class network for governments, banks, and businesses, supporting payment, sovereignty, interoperability, and greater financial inclusion, and is globally accepted via strategic partnerships, including the Discover Network. Empowering Africa with African-made payment solutions. Welcome to PAPS Card, your passport to payments.
Écoutez, moi j'ai envie de vous dire que moi aussi j'ai envie d'utiliser très rapidement ma PAPS card. Ladies and gentlemen, behind every ambition, every plan for transformation lies a landscape of numbers, trends, and difficult questions. And when the person helping us navigate that terrain is Dr. Yemi Kale, we know we're not just in for data, we're in for clarity, insight, and deep economic vision. En tant qu'économiste en chef du groupe Afreximbank, il éclaire les décisions les plus cruciales de l'institution, tout en portant une vision forte de la souveraineté économique africaine. Merci d'accueillir, mesdames et messieurs, chaleureusement Dr. Yemi Kale. Please welcome Dr. Yemi Kale, ladies and gentlemen.
Your Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Your Excellencies, Presidents, Prime Ministers, and heads of states and governments, both past and present, captains of industry, distinguished delegates, esteemed ladies and gentlemen, permit me to respectfully stand on already existing protocols. As we bring this momentous 32nd Afreximbank annual meetings to a close, it is both an honor and profound privilege for me to deliver these special remarks on behalf of the board, management, and staff of the Africa Export-Import Bank. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, over the past few days in plenaries and panels and in side conversations and signature launches, we have reflected deeply on the resilience that have defined Afreximbank's three-decade journey, from a bold idea on paper to an indispensable African institution driving integration, industrialization, and innovation across the continent. This year's theme, Building the Future on Decades of Resilience, has not only anchored our discussions, but has also reaffirmed our collective ambition to define the future of global Africa on our own terms. We have tackled some of the most pressing issues of our time, from restructuring Africa's financial architecture to reimagining trade and technology as levers of sovereignty, to building greater synergy with our brothers and sisters in the Caribbean. The insights shared, the strategies explored, and the partnerships renewed are testaments to the immense potential we carry when we act in unity and with purpose. First and most importantly, we express our deepest appreciation to His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and to the government and people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for graciously hosting us here in Abuja and for demonstrating unwavering support throughout this process. Special thanks must go to the Coordinating Minister for the Economy and the Honorable Minister of Finance, Mr. Wale Edun. Honorable Minister, your leadership and personal dedication were instrumental to the smooth execution of these meetings. We are grateful for your hands-on engagement and tireless efforts to ensure the success of this gathering. To our very diverse and distinguished speakers, panelists, discussants, moderators, our co-MCs from across Nigeria, Africa, the Caribbean, and the rest of the world, who enriched every session with depth and thought leadership, we express our profound appreciation. We also extend heartfelt thanks to our guests based in Nigeria and across the world who joined us in person and the many watching online for spending the last few days with us. We also express our appreciation to our sponsors, our partners, our collaborators, whose financial and technical support helped us bring this vision to life. To my colleagues within Afreximbank, thank you, starting with the program committee who worked with me and whose insight, diligence, and creativity helped us craft a seminar and plenary program that was not only intellectually rigorous, but also timely, relevant, and inspiring. Mr. Richmond Denze, Dr. Anthony Coleman, Dr. Raymond Bomboya, and Ms. Doreen Nambafu, to the co-chairs of the expanded AGM committee who led our discussions with local organizing committee, Mrs. Anne Eze, Director Communications and Event, and her team, Mr. Gerald Chihota, Director Board Secretariat, and his team. I also want to thank Mrs. Nicole Bresson, Director Protocol, and her team, Mr. Alain Thierry Mbongo, Regional Chief Operating Officer for Anglophone West Africa based in Abuja, and his team, who all collectively provided exceptional leadership on logistics, protocol, IT, communications, and hospitality. I acknowledge and appreciate your attention to detail, your professionalism and warmth, which ensured that our guests and participants were not just comfortable, but truly impressed. You created an environment where minds could meet, ideas could flourish, and new collaborations could be born. Thank you for delivering first-class a first-class experience. Thank you for showcasing Afreximbank's class and efficiency, and thank you for demonstrating to the world what it means to be an Afreximbanker. Now allow me to quickly pay tribute to a truly exceptional leader, our outgoing boss, the President and Chairman of the Board of Directors of Afreximbank, Professor Benedict Orama. Professor Orama's tenure has been transformational. Under his leadership, Afreximbank has moved beyond being a trade finance institution into becoming a true catalyst for Africa's economic evolution through groundbreaking initiatives such as PAPS, Mansa, Afrexinsure, the African Trade Gateway, our bold forays in healthcare, digital platforms, and industrial policy, and so many others I'm unable to mention here. Mr. President, throughout these meetings, many have spoken eloquently about leadership, its meaning, its demands, and how you embodied it in full measure. But for me, leadership ultimately comes down to three core qualities: character, competence, and capacity. And in you, President Orama, we find all three, not just present, but exemplified to the highest standard. One powerful example before I close that speaks volumes about President Orama's character is what we witnessed in these final months of his presidency. Most people nearing the end of such an illustrious tenure tend to ease off, slowing down, taking stock, coasting towards the finish line. But not President Orama. He did the opposite. He shifted into a higher gear, he worked harder, he launched more initiatives, he traveled more, he pushed boundaries with even greater urgency, and he drove us in the bank even more aggressively. So much so that many of us at the bank began to wonder if perhaps he wasn't actually leaving after all. But that is quintessential Orama. It was as if he understood with crystal clarity that time was short. And so he poured out every ounce of energy, every ounce of intellect and passion, not for applause, not for personal reward, but to ensure that after 30 years of remarkable service to Africa, he would never sit on a beach somewhere with his wife and children and wonder if there was something he left undone. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not just leadership. That is sacrifice. That is purpose. That is legacy. Because for Professor Orama, this has never been just a job. It has been a calling, a mission to transform Africa and to leave it better, stronger, and more united. On behalf of the entire Afreximbank family, on behalf of Nigeria, on behalf of Africa, on behalf of the Caribbean region, we say thank you once again for your service, thank you for your vision, and thank you for your unshakable commitment to global Africa. Before I leave, I think it's only fitting that we bid farewell to Professor Orama one more time at his final annual general meeting as President and Chairman of the Board of Afreximbank, not with words alone, but with another resounding standing ovation and a thunderous applause in honor of a truly extraordinary legacy. President, you have led not only with vision, but with unwavering purpose, steadfast integrity, and an unshakable love for Africa. Your legacy will endure in the institutions you have built, the lives you have touched, and the future you have helped shape. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I thank you all for listening.
Now, please be seated. We've come to that final moment, the crescendo, the cherry on the cake. It's left to me, to my singular honor, to welcome to this stage a leader whose commitment to Africa's economic renaissance is both unwavering and inspiring. He has not only championed Nigeria's transformation, but he stood as a pillar of support for Afreximbank's mission to accelerate intra-Africa trade and prosperity for all Africans. Now, under his leadership, Nigeria has become the largest recipient of Afreximbank's trade and development finance, attracting over $52 billion. That's catalyzed infrastructure, manufacturing, and export competitiveness, empowering businesses and creating jobs across our great nation and far beyond. His dynamic administration has been a driving force behind the African Continental Free Trade Area, pioneering implementation of digital trade protocols and hosting many high-level roundtables that have positioned Nigeria at the forefront of Africa's digital economy and future. His bold reforms to improve the ease of doing business, expand critical infrastructure, and champion public-private partnership have sent a very clear message. Nigeria is open for business and Africa is ready to lead. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming a true champion of African trade, a steadfast supporter of Afreximbank, and a visionary leader, His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Please, have your seat. Bye-bye, Paleo. Your Excellencies, my dear colleagues from far and wide, with their wives, the first ladies who are here with us. Let me pay a special homage to former head of state, particularly our own Papa, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo. We thank God for you. All former vice presidents, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please spare me the burden of protocol. Today is your day, Prof. Orama. Listening to the account and the report rendered eloquently by you, with the conclusion of lessons for us, your friends, partners. It is a great honor to stand here and say, well done. Welcoming all of you to Abuja for the 32nd annual meetings of the African Export-Import Bank. Nigeria is a fitting host for this pivotal gathering as Africa's most populous nation and one of the strongest voices for unity and progress. More than a routine meeting, this is a moment to reflect on our shared resilience and renew our commitment to shaping Africa's future boldly and deliberately. The theme of this year's meeting, building the future on decades of resilience, is timely and profound. Afreximbank, under Professor Benedict Orama's steadfast leadership, has grown its assets from $5 billion to over $37 billion in a good time. Its decade of leadership saw the bank champions Africa's pandemic response, drive industrialization, support the African Free Trade Area, and the continent's creative economy its legacy is one of the generational impact. Thank you. "32 years ago, Afreximbank was born from Africa's resolve to own its own development, drive it with over $250 billion mobilized for the trade and development. $150 billion in the last decade alone, the bank has become a pillar of Africa and Africa's progress. Nigeria has proudly benefited from over $52 billion in support directed into energy, agriculture, infrastructure, manufacturing, healthcare, and creative industries. Flagship projects such as Dangote and Bua refineries, the African Medical Center of Excellence, and the African Quality Assurance Center embody confidence in Nigeria, in Nigeria's future and Africa's potential. This partnership extends beyond capital. Nigeria's former approval of the Pan-African Payment Settlement System, PASS, is a significant step towards financial independence. Thank you, Orama. PASS enables a cross-border trade in local currencies, reducing reliance on foreign exchange, and promoting economic stability. I urge all African nations to embrace PASS because deeper financial integration strengthens our collective resilience. Since May 2023, my administration has, under a renewed hope agenda, advanced toward but necessary reforms rooted in macroeconomic stability, inclusive growth, and restored productivity. We have removed the long-standing fuel subsidy scam and unified our exchange rate system. These reforms, though difficult, but essential to correcting systematic distortions. The result of our efforts are clear and promising, providing a strong foundation for our future endeavors. We have made significant strides in various sectors, and these achievements should fill us with great joy for what it lies ahead. In year 2024, Nigeria recorded a 3% GDP growth with broad sectorial contributions. Oil production rebounded to greater than 1.5 million barrels per day, with a 2.5 million target in view. Supported by strategic investment and all it is like $1.2 billion CNC's agreement, inflation is easing, Naira is stabilizing, investors' confidence is recovering. I can also say that debt servicing has declined from 96% to below 65% of revenue. Tax reform is also underway, is already, underway. You have 6 months, it has been signed to law, you have 6 months of grace to get familiar with it. Numbers alone do not capture our progress. Fundamental transformation lies in empowered citizens and thriving enterprises. I say over 100,000 Nigerians have access to a new national consumer credit, with 400,000 more given for the next phase. Our landmark student loan program ensures no child is denied higher education due to financial hardship. We have spent 45.9 naira in healthcare to upgrade 8,800 primary healthcare centers, improving maternal care and diagnostic areas in neglected communities. We are deploying thousands of fiber optic cables for digital inclusion to bridge connectivity gap and power innovation. Over 279 roads have been completed on infrastructure, with 65% under construction and 260 roads done. Nigeria's collaboration with Afreximbank is expanding in both scope and ambition. Together, we are launching the African Energy Bank, headquartered in Abuja, with 5 billion in initial capital to finance Africa's energy transition, leveraging gas, renewables, and clean technologies. We are scaling our fertilizer sector to 7.5 million tons annually, supported by Afreximbank. We are positioning Nigeria as Africa's fertilizer hub and ensuring food security for the continent. Meanwhile, transformative projects such as the $3.5 billion Bakassi Deep Sea Port enhanced trade infrastructure and market access. Though platforms like FEDA, Aqua, Canex, and BPAS, our partnership with Afreximbank is not just about financing. It is about fostering African entrepreneurship, elevating quality standards, and scaling small-scale enterprises in creative and export-driven industries. Afreximbank is a strategic partner in our co-creating institutions, infrastructure, and innovation that will define Africa's economic future. As the world becomes increasingly fragmented, with rising protectionism and shifting trade dynamics, Africa must double down on its institutions and capabilities. Afreximbank, banked by committed member states, must remain agile, bold, and grounded in African realities. In closing, let us fully adopt paths to reduce costs, conserve foreign reserves, and empower small-scale enterprises. Let us strengthen financial support to Afreximbank to scale its transformational impact. Let us treat inter-African trade not as a goal, but as a strategic pathway growth jobs, and industrial value claim. Let us empower youth, women, and entrepreneurs as beneficiaries and architects of a new African century. The world will not wait for Africa. A united and purposeful Africa can define its destiny. In the face of rising protectionism and shifting trade dynamics, it is more important than ever that we stand together, united in our commitment to Africa's development and prosperity. On behalf of the government and people of Nigeria, I welcome you again to Abuja. Let us remember these bold steps catalyze investments and firm commitments they produce. Let history record African leaders and choose to shape their own destiny. Thank you for your presence. I have the honor and privilege to recognize you. The outstanding contribution of Professor Benedict Orama by conferring you with one of Nigeria's highest honors, the Grand Commander of the Order of Niger. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, history was made. A round of applause for His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He saved the best for last right there. Now, Mr. President, if I could ask you to remain in your space, Mr. President. Now, Mr. President, if I could ask you, Mr. President, President Tinubu, if I could ask you, please, we would like to take a photo with you right here, if you wouldn't mind coming back here. President Orama, if you could guide His Excellency and the First Lady, as well as your First Lady, President. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to invite heads of state, of government, to please join His Excellency and their spouses. So heads of state, the President of Malawi, please come along with your lovely wife. And former heads of state, please join this photo as well. Vice presidents as well and spouses, and representatives of heads of state and government, too numerous to mention, please join this. Former heads of state and government, former vice presidents, please join. Former presidents of the bank, Afreximbank, where are you? Please join us for this photo. Senior vice president and executive vice president of Afreximbank, senior vice presidents and executive, please do not crowd. Members of the press, step back. Members of the press, step back. The AU Deputy Chairperson, please join us, the AU Deputy Chairperson. And CEO of Audu Nepad, where there you are, I see you there, Nardos Bekele Thomas. The SG of CARICOM, the Chairman of AMFI, and also some of our titans. Aliko Dangote, please join us. Tony Elumelu, please join us. Wale Tinubu, please join us. And the Lagos State Governor, please join us if you are here. I don't know where, I can't spot eyes on you, but Jide Sanwo-Olu, the Governor of Lagos State, please join us. So now what we're going to do is take a first photograph. So please, if I did not call you, do not join this photograph. Do not join this photograph. Heads of states, former heads of states, captains of industry, chairman of AMFI, now I will invite board members could you come and join us, please? Board members of Afreximbank, wherever you are, please join the photo. And I think the Chief of Staff to the President, I think he may be here. He's there, okay. And ministers and deputy ministers, if you are in the house, you can also join us as well. Pan-African trade champions all gathered together here. What a momentous occasion. Okay, all that remains for us to do, please let me have your attention, please. If we could all stand still for the anthem of the federal, please lower that music. Lower that music. Of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Eshegidigan, Mr. President. Now all that remains is for us to remain in our seats. Members of the press, you are crowding. Allow the President and his dignitaries to leave. Do not leave your seat, please. Allow the President and other dignitaries, heads of states and representatives to exit the building.